Welcome back to Legal Avenue Deep Dive Podcast, powered by Legal Avenue, produced by Counsel Ram. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Today we're going to be talking about Uganda.
Oh, yeah.
A very interesting situation going on over there. So if you haven't been following along, basically we have Isaac Ssemakadde.
Right.
Very well known in the Ugandan legal scene as, shall we say, a very vocal critic of the justice system.
Yes, he is.
And he was elected president of the Uganda Law Society.
Yeah, this is a big
deal.
Yep.
And so a lot of people are kind of like, whoa, wait a minute.
How's this going to work?
How's this going to work? Is this going to be a constant showdown, like, legal battle between the Law Society and the judiciary? So,
and there was a lot of talk, right, from the very beginning that, maybe this guy has some personal vendetta.
Right.
Like, this isn't really about the...
Oh, absolutely. Social media was...
systemic...
a buzz with these kinds of theories.
Absolutely.
And then he missed this big judiciary event.
Yeah, he did.
And people were like, oh, see, I told you, he's got a problem.
Yep.
But then he goes and has this big sit-down...
surprise!
...with Chief Justice
Owiny-Dolo.
Owiny-Dolo.
Big meeting.
So what's going on here?
Right. Like, what's the deal? And I think, what's really important to remember is that this meeting, it wasn't just like, hey, good to see you, let's take a photo op. You know, this is a guy, Ssemakadde, who ran his campaign on a platform of, I'm going to shake things up, I'm going to come in, I'm going to change this, this, and this.
So these weren't just like off-the-cuff remarks he was making.
No. These were central to his platform.
Central to his platform.
This is what he ran on.
So the judiciary knows that.
Oh, they know.
They know this is what he was elected on.
Absolutely. And they even said, we're open to feedback. They put out an official statement. We're willing to engage in dialogue. So, it looks like they're extending an olive branch.
An olive branch.
Yeah.
But
I'm a little skeptical, to be honest.
I was going to say, are you buying it?
I don't know. I'm not sure, because at the end of the day, are they really truly committed to addressing these systemic issues?
Right.
Or is this a way to just kind of quiet the critics for a little while? Not really rock the boat too much?
So the jury's still out.
The jury's still out. We'll see what happens.
But it's definitely exposed some interesting dynamics. We have the Law Society representing the lawyers saying, we want reform, we want accountability.
Right.
And then we have the judiciary. They're supposed to be upholding the law, but maybe they're feeling a little...
defensive,
a little,
Yeah, resistant to change.
So it's a power struggle.
Yeah, it is.
And that's why this is so fascinating for our listeners, because this isn't just about, legal theory or whatever.
This is about how justice is delivered in a country.
Exactly. And it has huge implications for Uganda as a whole.
Absolutely. This affects everyone. Think about the ordinary Ugandan. They need to go to court, they need to access justice. What's going to happen to them if this power struggle doesn't get resolved in a way that's beneficial for the people?
Right.
This is about real lives. This isn't just some abstract...
This isn't just us sitting here in our ivory tower talking about concepts. So I think we've laid some good groundwork here.
I think so, too.
Let's really dig into some of the specifics of
Ssemakadde's
critiques when we come back. Like, what exactly is he objecting to?
Right.
What does he want changed? And what are the chances of any of that actually happening?
And how's that going to affect, the whole system, the relationship between the judiciary and the Law Society? Like, what's the history there?
So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive.
We'll be right back.
You are listening to the Deep Dive podcast, powered by Legal Avenue.
Welcome back to Legal Avenue. It's amazing how much discussion this whole thing has generated,
It really is.
Like, people in Uganda are really, really paying attention to what Ssemakadde is saying.
Well, and it's interesting, right? Because it's not just lawyers.
Exactly.
It's like everyday people are feeling this too. So what are some of the things that he's bringing up that are really resonating?
So one of the big ones is this lack of transparency in the court system. Like, all these procedures, this legal jargon that most people don't understand, right? Yeah. It just creates this feeling of like, I'm powerless. I don't even know what's going on.
Right.
And that breeds mistrust.
Right.
you don't understand what's happening. You don't feel like you have any control over the process.
Yeah, it makes you feel like the system's not really for you.
Exactly. And then on top of that, there's this lack of accountability for the judges.
Oh, right.
So what happens if a judge is, consistently making biased rulings, or if they're, not behaving professionally?
Yeah, what can people do?
There's not really a clear mechanism to address that, and that further erodes public trust.
Mm-hmm. It makes you wonder, like, who's watching the Watchmen, right?
Exactly.
And we talked about that backlog of cases earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how does that fit into all of this?
So the backlog is a symptom, I think, of a bigger problem, right? Like, it's not just that there aren't enough judges, which might be part of it.
Right.
But it's also these inefficient procedures.
Yep.
It's the lack of modern technology. I mean, some courts are still using, like, paper files. Can you imagine?
I know. It's crazy in this day and age.
Right. And then there's also maybe even some cultural stuff going on there.
What do you mean by that?
Like, attitudes towards time management and, getting things done quickly.
I see.
So all of this contributes to this massive backlog. And what happens is justice gets delayed. And sometimes it's delayed for years.
Years.
Yeah. So people aren't getting timely resolutions to their legal issues.
Right. So by the time, they actually get their day in court, the situation is completely different.
Exactly. So it just perpetuates this cycle of frustration.
It's like the system's working against them almost.
In a way. Yeah.
So it sounds like Ssemakadde's not just complaining, right? He's actually got some ideas.
Oh, yeah. No, he's not just, armchair quarterbacking. He's like, okay, here's what we can do to fix this.
What are some of his proposals?
So one of the big ones is increasing the use of technology. He's talking about like digital filing systems,
right?
Online access to case documents so you can like log in and see what's happened with your case.
So like a more modern like digital.
Yeah, like a portal, and even like maybe virtual hearings for some cases,
So streamline the process, make it easier for people to.
Exactly, make it more efficient, make it more transparent.
That seems like a really big undertaking.
It is. I mean, can the Ugandan judiciary even handle that? Like, do they have the resources?
Right. Do they have the infrastructure?
Yeah, the infrastructure. And then, there's also the political will, right?
Right.
Like, is there a real desire to make those changes?
Actually implement those changes.
Yeah.
So Ssemakadde's saying it's not just about throwing money at the problem.
No.
It's also about, like, changing mindsets and, like, really embracing this.
It's a cultural shift.
Yeah, cultural shift. And that brings us back to this meeting, right, with the Chief Justice.
Yeah.
I mean, historically, the judiciary, they haven't always been super receptive to criticism from the Law Society.
No, not really.
It's been a bit of a
rocky relationship,
push and pull. Sometimes they work together. Sometimes they're at each other's throats.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to wonder, like, Ssemakadde going into that meeting, knowing all of that.
Right.
Was he really hoping for some kind of collaboration?
Yeah.
Or was this more of a strategic move, like to kind of force the judiciary's hand to expose their, resistance to change?
Yeah. Right. Like, let's see what you're really made of. Yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to know what his true intentions were.
Yeah.
But I think we can say that this meeting is a big deal.
It's a turning point, potentially.
It is. It's a turning point. It could shift the entire dynamic between the Law Society and the judiciary.
Right. So the question is this going to be like genuine dialogue, genuine collaboration leading to actual change?
Yeah, that's the hope.
Or is it going to be, another chapter in this like long-running saga of tension and mistrust?
Or just another chapter in conflict. Yeah. And I think it's important to remember, too, that this isn't just some internal legal matter, right? This affects all of Uganda.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if people don't trust the legal system, if they feel like it's not working for them, that has huge implications for the entire society.
Right.
For the economy, for political participation, for everything.
Yeah. So it's really high stakes.
High stakes, yeah.
Like, how this plays out could really shape the future of the country. I mean, are we being a little dramatic here?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear you say that. Yeah. So let's when we come back, let's try to game this out a little bit. Like, what are some possible scenarios? How could this whole situation unfold?
Okay, sounds good.
Back here on Legal Avenue.
You are listening to the Big Dave podcast, powered by Legal Avenue.
And we are in the thick of it, trying to figure out how this whole thing is going to shake out in Uganda.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're watching, a legal drama, but it's actually real life.
Yeah, and the thing is, we don't know how it's going to end yet. I mean, this meeting could really be a turning point.
Right.
Maybe the judiciary really takes all this to heart and we see some big changes.
Or maybe it just fades away and nothing really happens.
Exactly. So let's imagine for a second that the best case scenario happens. The judiciary really listens to Ssemakadde and we start seeing reforms.
Okay, so paint me a picture. What would that actually look like?
Well, for starters, think about the technology we talked about.
Right.
Like, what if all that paperwork disappeared and it was all digital? People could file things online.
That'd be amazing.
And they could check on their cases online, see what's happening without having to go down to the courthouse.
Right, track the progress and everything.
Exactly. And even maybe some hearings could happen online.
Oh, wow. That would be a huge change.
It would. It would make things so much easier and so much more transparent.
Yeah, and thinking about those folks we talked about who have to travel for hours just to get to court.
Exactly. It would be a game changer for them.
But let's be real.
Right.
Changing a whole system that's been around for a long time, that's not easy.
Yeah.
What if they just make a few small changes here and there?
Right.
Just enough to look like they're doing something.
Yeah.
But they don't really address the big problems.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility.
Like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
Exactly. They could make things look a little bit better on the surface.
Right.
But those core issues like transparency, accountability, efficiency, those would all still be there.
And I got to say, there's a part of me that worries this whole meeting was just for show.
Oh, yeah.
Like a PR stunt.
Yeah.
Smiles for the cameras.
Yeah.
A nice statement about dialogue. But then nothing really changes.
It's possible, and I think if that happens, it's going to really damage the relationship between the Law Society and the judiciary.
Yeah, because Ssemakadde, he's not going to just sit back and be quiet.
Nope. He's going to keep pushing for reform.
If he thinks they're not being sincere.
It's going to get messy.
Yeah. So I guess what we're seeing here in Uganda, it reminds us that, building a just system, it's not a one-time thing. It's a constant process.
It takes work. You have to keep watching, keep pushing, keep demanding more.
And it's a reminder that change is possible.
Right. Even when it seems like things are stuck, systems can change if enough people demand it. So for anyone listening out there who cares about justice, pay attention, get involved, and never stop fighting for a better system.
Absolutely. Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Ugandan legal scene.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. A huge thanks to our expert for breaking all of this down for us.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to Legal Avenue and share this deep dive with anyone who wants to learn more about the fight for justice around the world. Until next time.
See you then.